Good evening, everyone. I am Camille, Uplifters Head of Program, and I want to thank everyone for joining me tonight. So before we get started with the topic for tonight, I'll just start with a little bit of a reminder about who we are at Uplifters. So Uplifters is a nonprofit based in Hong Kong, empowering underprivileged communities with online education and peer support. So what we do is that we offer free online courses on money management and personal growth to migrant domestic workers. And you can, any migrant domestic workers around the world can join our courses just by clicking send message on our Facebook page to enroll. I'll screen it for you right here. I'm very happy to see common names connecting now. So welcome everyone. Do not hesitate to just comment and share with us who you are, where you're watching from, where you're from, where you're working. Good evening, Odi, the first one to be connected and saying hi. Good evening, everybody. Excited about tonight. I am as well. I can tell, definitely. Hi, Jasmine. Nice seeing you there. Good evening, watching from Singapore. So Odi and Jasmine are some of our team leaders here at Uplifters. We have Velasco, Valentin Riza connecting as well. Yeah, people are joining. So tonight will be the episode number 8 of our Uplift Your Night series, and we're delighted to be here with you. It's very nice to see all of you over here. Again, do not hesitate to just comment in the comment box. We'll be waiting maybe few seconds more, maybe 1 minute more, so we have more people with us before we actually kick off. So I wanted to also remind everyone of our first objective with this series. So the very first objective is that we want to be there together with you, reminding everyone that Uplifters is first and foremost a community. And of course, we also want to be keeping learning together and support each other. Yeah. Hi, Anne-Marie. Excited here, watching from Discovery Bay, Hong Kong, watching from Singapore. Yeah, already quite a good number of people watching us. So let's get started so I can introduce the topic for tonight, which is inclusive leadership. So we talk a lot about what leadership is, but tonight will be especially about what an inclusive leader is. So it's going to be about, what are the common attributes we give to an inclusive leader? What are the differences also in between a leader, a coach, a mentor? What does it take to be a leader within this community of migrant domestic workers? And I want to say that I really look forward to read our audience comments, because we do have very good leaders among our community. So it's not going to be only about me and my guests sharing knowledge to you, but we really want to hear from your experience tonight. So really feel free to engage and share, and just jump your comment in when you want to say something about what is being discussed. And to discuss this very interesting topic, let's welcome Charlotte as our guest tonight. So Charlotte is a neuro-linguistic programming trainer and master coach, and she also founded her own company called Infinite Potential. And her mission is to help people live their life without limitation. And she does that by helping them to optimize the behaviors and the mindset that will support them in achieving their goals. But in addition to that, Charlotte is also one of our advisors. So she's been helping a lot with our review work of our main course curriculum. So our students can develop the growth mindset that we consider they need to achieve their life goals. So it gives me the occasion to thank her a lot. Before we welcome her in for good, I also wanted to just say thank you to all of our team leaders, especially because this episode is precisely about leadership. So our team leaders are domestic workers themselves, and what they do is that they facilitate the running of our online courses by facilitating discussions in between among students, batches after batches, month after month. So altogether this year, in 2020, they've been running more than 10 sessions of Dare to Dream course, which is our main money management course. And we enrolled 2,500 new students. So as I was just saying before, we have a lot to learn from our community leaders within Uplifters. And I really hope that they will be sharing their experience. So please, please, please do engage and tell us what it feels to be a leader within Uplifters community, but also outside of this Uplifters family. And for those who do not feel like a leader yet, or who joined us as student or just are part of our community, it will also be very interesting to hear what you have to say about what to you is an inclusive leader. So we have many people watching now. Marie-Jeanne is watching from Tai Hong here in Hong Kong. And we have Nelly here with us. We also have Zenaida. Hi, Zenaida Navarro, that I don't know personally yet, watching from Canada. Yeah, so many of our community members are based here in Southeast Asia, mainly in Singapore and in Hong Kong, but we also have our community being extended. And so we're very happy to see all of you being with us tonight. So let's get started, and let's now welcome Charlotte with us. Good evening, Charlotte.
Good evening, Camille. Good evening, everyone dialing in as well.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you. Thank you for being with us. In Hong Kong, it's quite late, so we really appreciate that you're giving us some of your precious time. So I think I'll start directly with that first question, which is about hearing from you how you would be defining inclusive leadership. And also, it'd be nice to hear from you if there is someone in your personal or professional life that you've been looking up to, or that you're still looking up to, and who would really feel like an inclusive leader to you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Camille. So I think it's a perfect place to start when we actually can start kind of getting a mutual understanding of what we're sort of referencing as we go through. Because leadership, when we think about that, for me, I very much connect it to people who are there. They're inspiring people, motivating, guiding and supporting people when we're looking towards either a shared outcome or a goal, or we're just generally part of a community together. And then when we add the inclusive layer to it, it's actually just keeping that at the heart of what we're doing. So really keeping inclusion at the heart of everything we're doing when we're interacting with other people, and leading them and inspiring them in that way, but doing it in a way that we're bringing everybody in, you know, not leaving people out. We think about everybody has different backgrounds, different cultures. We have diversity and inclusion. There's so many different things that makes everybody unique, that we always need to be thinking as leaders, you know, how do we actually tap into the unique value of each person and really help them bring their full potential kind of to the table, and really encourage that engagement. So that's always what I keep in mind when I'm thinking about leadership and inclusive leadership most specifically. Always having people to look up to is a great way to have a role model and to start seeing it in action. And I've been very fortunate that I definitely see it in multiple areas. You know, we can see leaders in our friendship groups, we can see them in our colleagues, we can even see them as our managers and bosses. So one person that really sticks out to me from the friendship side is one of my girlfriends is always including everybody. She has this just beautiful ability to always want to seek the opinions of different people. If there's new people in town, she's the first one, you know, including her in different events and making sure people feel like they're part of a community and really in a place where you can open up, there's somebody to turn to, and no one's left behind, no one's left out. And I've seen it in many different areas. There's also a number of sports groups as well. I'm not part of one of the Dragon Boat teams, my husband is, but the coach of that team has just got this innate ability to always want to know more about everybody and always be finding out how is it that she can be meeting the needs of different people, even when it's friends and family of the team members, so even the extended parts of the team. So it's that real genuine care that transcends a lot of the people that I see when they're really looking at bringing that inclusivity to how they lead and inspire other people around them.
Thank you, Charlotte. Yeah, I think it's a nice start right into the topic. And sometimes when we hear leadership, it's easy to be thinking of someone who would be, showing the way. And sometimes we tend to forget that showing the way and having people following us can't actually be effectively done if you don't also give to people what they actually need and what they kind of need to be wanted to follow someone is the feeling to be cared about and to be understood and to be listened at. So yeah, it's really, really complementary how you are showing empathy to people and the power you'll have to have people following you, and that power that you will gain will give you the ability in return to support and to lead effectively. And I think it gives me a good transition to go deeper and ask you what would be to you what we call the attribute of an inclusive leader, now that we have a better understanding of what would be an inclusive style of leadership. Like, how do we do that if we want to become an inclusive leader ourselves?
Absolutely. And when we keep that in the core, you know, we want to be including everybody. It's then thinking about what are the characteristics, the traits, the attributes that I can bring to the table that are going to support me in doing that. And really, I think that's kind of at the heart of it, because if we want to include people, curiosity is something that's really important, because then we want to know what's going on for people. We want to understand different perspectives. We want to invite all these discussions to come in. So I think curiosity for me is something I think is a great attribute to bring to any area of life, but particularly when we're working with people. And it kind of leads very nicely into then a secondary one is just really an encouraging way to help people open dialogue. So again, it's really bringing in those skills of questioning and listening, but at that little bit of a deeper level. You know, we can often ask a question and we hear the words in the response, but are we really listening to the level that we can really understand different people's perspectives? You mentioned empathy earlier, and that's another one that's really important, because if we're looking to include people, then we need to be able to see things from other people's perspectives, because that's the way we're going to be able to understand and know what people need, rather than just thinking and assuming that what we want or we need or we see as the right way is going to be the key thing. So 3 there I kind of jumbled together, but curiosity, really encouraging open dialogue, and bringing in empathy as well. Those skills to be able to empathize are really important. And this then enables what I would see as the next one, which is about being adaptable. Because when we start understanding people and knowing different backgrounds, different cultures, different behavioral traits, even some people are more introverted, extroverted, we then need to be able to adapt to that so that we can really be connecting and communicating and encouraging people in a way that's going to be important for them. So I think those are really, really important ways in that we can interact with others. And then on the other side is also having self-awareness from ourselves. You know, what are our strengths? What are our development areas? What might be some blind spots that we have? And a really simple example I thought of the other day when I was thinking about blind spots that I have is that, you know, when you're on a Zoom call or a meeting or you're in a group of friends, how do you show up yourself? And how could that impact the interactions with other people? Are you very vocal and therefore people who are a bit more quiet might not feel as comfortable to share? Or do you tend to go and ask, you know, viewpoints from the same people and other people maybe because then they don't speak up as much, they don't share? Or, you know, it's starting to just also have that self-awareness of how our behavior, our communication is showing up and what could be the impact that that has in our inclusion of people and bringing them into the conversation.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Like we could kind of summarize it saying it's all about knowing people that you want to lead and support, but starting by knowing yourself, because the better you'll know yourself, the better you'll be able to have this ability to actually observe. So what I'm hearing from what you're saying is really there is a time that you need to dedicate to understand well the community that you want to lead, who they are and their needs, but it's also about individuals within this community. And sometimes we tend to think, well, there is one way maybe to lead the migrant domestic workers community, and there is another way to lead financial businessmen. But an inclusive leader can actually lead any kind of group of person, as long as there is this time dedicated to knowing people around you and also building a trust relationship, which I know we'll be discussing a bit more later. So thank you, Charlotte. I'll think I read some of the comments. We now have quite a good number of people watching us. I will show a comment from Marie, who is my colleague, but most importantly, the founder and CEO of Uplifters. And she says, our very first lesson on leadership in Become a Leader really goes with what you're saying. So one of the three values that we have at Uplifters is warmth, together with enablement and positivity. And just for those who might not be so much familiar with how Uplifters work, we have our alumni, being domestic workers themselves, being trained to lead the learning journey of new students. So yeah, it's about knowing the community for sure. And we have another comment from Sina Marlona saying inclusive leader for me is one that is curious. So again, curiosity is like maybe one of the number one that we want to keep in mind. Collaborative, courageous, and committed, I guess. So yeah, I really encourage all of you to share based on your own experience as a leader, but also on what you've been observing around you. And I don't know, Charlotte, I know you know the community a little bit because you've been contributing to the work that we do. Do you think that they are, among those attributes that you just listed, those that you would see as maybe more important than other for this specific community? But I'm asking the question to you, Charlotte, but of course I'll be very happy to also hear from the community itself. So yeah, feel free to comment and tell us what you think.
Absolutely, yeah. Hear it from the source would be great as well. And I think two I would draw on instantly is first that curiosity, just because I think that just is so core to just underlying that people focus and really wanting to bring your understanding up. So, and we can bring in curiosity in all areas of life, from friendships to within the community as well. And the second one I draw on is really empathy. particularly at the time we are now. You know, this year has been a very different year. I can use that word and a lot of people are experiencing it in very, very different ways as well. So being able to start bringing in that skill of empathy just means that we start opening ourselves up to different perspectives and connecting with people at a deeper level, because we're not just sort of listening to their challenges, but we can really look at it from their perspective as well. And that really does, as you mentioned before, kind of that's where we start getting into that, creating that trust, that warmth, that compassion within the group. So I would say curiosity and empathy would be two of those skills that we can bring into practice every day.
Yeah. Whether we are a leader or not, I guess. Yeah. Thank you for that, Charlotte. I think something that I also wanted to use this episode to clarify a bit are the differences in between what we call a leader, a mentor, or a coach. So we often hear that a good leader also has coaching and mentoring skills, but what are the differences in between these skills and in between, like, the person themselves being whether a leader, a coach, or a mentor? Could you please help us kind of better understand how they articulate together?
Absolutely. This is a question I get asked a lot about, because there can be some blurred lines around the differences. And we've kind of talked about the leadership, and I see coaching and mentorship as approaches that leaders can put into practice to support them in how they're engaging with people. And coaching, really at the crux of it, is different to mentoring in that coaching focuses on not giving advice and not giving opinions, which sometimes can be a little bit more challenging, because naturally our instinct is to want to give people the solution to their problem or give them an answer. And that's really, I actually see the beauty of coaching, is that it's the ability to sort of sit back and really help give that person that you're talking to, or the group that you're working with, the space to find those answers within them, because quite often they are there. We just need some encouragement or some guiding or some support to help us get there. So really, coaching is really using the questioning and listening skills to really help draw the information out from that person so that they can then see the way forward. So that would be sort of how I see coaching. And because of that, we can do that anywhere. Friends, family, coaching, leaders, peers, you know, anyone can coach somebody, because it's just giving them that space to really connect with what they're looking to develop. On the other side, the mentorship is slightly different in that we often select a mentor because they are someone they're in a position, for example, that we aspire to. Say, for example, if someone was looking at the team leader role, we often go to a mentor because we want to get their insights. We want to learn from their experience. So by nature, that is more sharing in terms of advice and information than a coach does. So a mentor generally is in a position that we aspire to, or has some traits that we would like to work up to, whereas a coach is more supporting from that development angle.
Yeah, thank you. So it's quite different, actually, right?
Yes.
And if I could kind of draw a parallel with our community, so the team leaders that we have, they are somehow both playing a mentor and a coach role. They're a mentor because they've been there before, studying, trying to get good, positive money management habits, facing themselves of all the challenges that usually come across your way when you want to, create positive habits, and when you want to change your behavior. So in a way, they're in a good position to be advising their peers. At the same time, I also see them as coaches, because somehow their role is to help the students self-reflect about what could be those challenges, and what would be, for instance, the resources that they may have within them to overcome these challenges. So a leader definitely need both coaching and mentoring skills. Thank you for sharing that. I will go back to the comments for a minute. And this is where I really look forward to hear from your experience. So I will show this one. It's quite a long one, so let's just take the time to have a read at it. So Odi is one of our team leader. She loves being a team leader, especially in Uplifters. She loves to see people changing their lives financially and personally, and joining in and out Uplifters, exploring me, especially if they join my own group Horizon, writing and performing with me in other international online platforms. So this is where we see different communities kind of overlapping and supporting each other. And thank you, Odi, very much, because you're actually sharing what joys it gives to be a leader. And I think it is also an important one. So we often think about what would be the benefit for those who do have a leader to look up to. But it seems like being a leader also brings happiness, in helping touching lives, even if it's online. Yeah, it's a long one, but it says a lot about, how satisfying and fulfilling it can actually be as well.
A lovely comment. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting one. Yeah. We have Mirasol saying for her, empathy, attentive, and helpful are true attributes of being inclusive. Thank you, Mirasol, for sharing this. Cinema, acknowledgement of our weaknesses and strong points. Yeah, definitely knowing yourself, what's happening into our daily life, and how comfortable we are in communicating and including diversity around us. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. So we also have a few comments about coaching. Coaching is more on performance and mentor is a skill. So Charlotte, do not hesitate to just jump in when you feel, you want to be sharing something. Yeah, I think they're both kind of skills, I would say, but I'm really happy also to hear from you, Charlotte. I would say they are skills that you can develop, like both being a mentor and being a coach. But what would you say, Charlotte?
So quite often I see the mentor piece is often that person is in a position or they're doing something that we aspire to. And therefore it might be that it's looking at what are the skills that I don't have and they have, and finding those gaps and then discussing what could be the way forward for you to get there. For example, I have 2 business mentors to support me, and I go to them when I have challenges or I'm looking for new insights, new ideas, because they're a lot further down that path than I am. And therefore I'm looking for advice and experience sharing from them. So absolutely, it can be a skill, and it can sometimes just be ideas as well. This is where I am, this is where I want to get to. How do you bridge that gap? And talk. And then coaching, even in a mentor relationship, they could bring it in and say, well, this is my experience. What are some things that you think you could do? And then you can go into more of that coaching discussion as well. And help that person then start thinking about, okay, I know my end goal, what I want to get to. What are the options that I have available to me? And as you said, Camille, it then becomes more of that self-reflection of what's right for me, what might I need to develop more, and the coach can then just help guide through looking at the different options. What are the challenges that could be there? What resources do I need? But the ownership and the accountability for the decision making stays much more with the coach.
Yeah,
in that side.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So it's really about how you kind of juggle with both. When you do have both, it could also be that you feel more as a mentor than a coach at some point in your life, and then after it will be the opposite. So I think as long as you kind of know what is the moment that you need to tap into this set of skills or this one, then it would be helpful. I remember myself being coached, and my coach had also mentoring skills, but like we kind of had implicit agreement that she would only be a coach to me, but sometime I was feeling that I needed to be mentored. So I would just ask her, can you just change your hat? Because now I don't need you to help me ask myself questions. I need you to kind of give me what would be your answers. So it's pretty much different, but really complementary.
Yeah, absolutely. Because sometimes we don't have the answers. And that's where you say, sometimes then the leader needs to switch the hat of actually sharing some of my own experience could be helpful. And flip into that mentor role.
So we have a lot of comments. I knew that the topic would be relatable. So we have Jasmine saying some characteristic of an inclusive leader, aside from curiosity, is commitment and courage. And I'd love us to elaborate a bit on courage. They need to be committed and courageous enough to acknowledge their personal limitations and to admit that they don't know everything and should be open to others' opinions. I do agree a lot. I think it's pretty much related to another topic that we wanted to touch base on, self-care. Like how can you be supportive of your community? How can you lead effectively on the long term, while taking care of yourself? And it has to do with limitations. So maybe Charlotte, we'll take 5 minutes to develop a little bit about this one now.
Absolutely. And I really, who was it, Jasmine, the way you put it is very, very important, because when we're in that position where we feel like we're leading others, there can be that pressure to sometimes think, I need to have all the answers, or I need to have all the guidance, and it's all on me. Whereas that's where the beauty of that coaching and mentorship can come in, to have the courage, as you said, to be able to step back sometimes and say, this is going outside the boundaries of where I feel comfortable or where I can support, or knowing that this isn't my area of strength. And I know who are people in the community or who are in the team that it is their area of strength, and being comfortable and courageous enough to say, let's go to them. They're the best person, and that blind spots and those limitations is where, if we take that time to really understand ourselves and how I often use the term show up. And what I mean by that is just, how do we come across? What's our natural style? What's our default way of behaving with people? And just being attuned and understanding that, where our strengths are, where our limitations are, and then knowing when to actually step back, gather other people's opinions. We don't need to have all of the answers. So that's something really, really important. And similarly on this note is also around the time piece. I believe, with so much technology and everything, all of our connections and a lot of our community work is online, there can be this tendency to feel the need to be always on. So as soon as the message pings, we need to respond. We need to be there all the time for everybody. And that can have its impact on our, sometimes stress levels, just exhaustion levels if we're too much. So it's really being able to sometimes set those boundaries around, when do I need to sometimes just step back from this role? It's not that I'm not caring or I'm not there, but I also need to look after myself. I can't always be on. And one of the things that I found that's really helped me, especially when I started moving into management roles and really interacting and supporting other people through challenges, was journaling as well. Because if people come to you with the things that they're experiencing, what they're working through, is to know that, they don't become our problems, but we want to be there and to be able to genuinely care. So I found journaling sometimes is a really nice way just to clear your head at the end of the day, get a really good night's sleep, and just keep those notes if you need to go back to them then, to be able to support people in the future you have them, but we're not having to carry those thoughts around with us all of the time. So really also knowing when sometimes we need some help, some support, when do we need to turn to a coach or a mentor as well, and being courageous enough to put your hand up and say, yeah, I need a little bit of help now. You know, maybe it's from workload, maybe it's stress, maybe it's challenges that people are coming to you with that you're not comfortable or able to handle. There is absolutely nothing wrong ever saying, you know, I need a little bit of help too, even when we see ourselves in those more leadership positions.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the community we're talking about tonight, migrant domestic workers, and especially Uplifters community, being mainly, not to say only online, it is definitely important. And then there is more than one factor that could actually put our community leaders under high stress. One is the current context, definitely a challenging one. So migrant domestic workers will be, going to community leaders that they know to help them overcome their challenges that are somehow directly or indirectly related to COVID-19 situation. But the migrant domestic workers community itself is very supportive of each other. So you already have this sort of culture of seeking support, and going to your peers actually to get that support. Like we recently conducted a survey on mental health, mental well-being among the community, and it was really interesting to see that the number one person migrant domestic workers in distress would go to is a peer, another migrant domestic worker. So it is very important to set boundaries, and it is very important to actually realize that it's not only about, it is like first and foremost about taking care of yourself, because you don't want to, feel bad yourself. But it's also about like feeling bad will prevent you from being in a position where you can support others in the long term. So yeah, there is this long-term perspective. If you want to, if you want to run like a long time, you really need to be careful and sometimes step back and play it slow when you feel you need it. So thank you for this sharing, Jasmine. It was very interesting, and I think we did a lot of work recently about mental health, and self-care is also something that you learn. So you can practice self-care. We're not all good at that at first, but then once you realize what are the resources that helps you feel good, whether exercising or being surrounded with friends or listening to positive music, then you'll feel better. So it's about self-awareness again.
Absolutely. You've got to be able to know when there's your triggers, or if your stress levels are changing, or if you're feeling like, you've been taking in a lot. Are you filling your cup back up? Because if we're caring and we're supporting people, it takes a lot out of us in a positive way. But we need to make sure that we refill that cup. And then, as you say, take a bit of time for self-care, from small little things, some music, all the way to, just really setting those boundaries and having that awareness for sure.
Yeah. So I'm reading comments. There are many, so I won't be able to read them all, unfortunately. But there is this one of Regina, who I think will help us transition to the next question quite nicely. So Regina is telling us, for me, the attribute of being an inclusive leader is being someone that can build relationship. So there is really, again, this idea of we're two in this, followers, leaders relationship. So what kind of relationship we actually want to build and create change as a team. And then we can contribute, like as a team, to the community betterment, to the good of the community. I think it's a very interesting one because Marie was just mentioning warmth being one of the core value you may want to develop, being an inclusive leader. So I think my next question to you is, what is the role of empathy and trust building in leadership? How does this translate concretely? Could you please share with us some examples? So what are we talking about? And I know that Charlotte and I just found a very nice illustration of what building this trust relationship means. So maybe if you're okay with that, Charlotte, I could show the slide now so everyone takes a little bit of time to have a look at it. And then you can just comment it while I'll screen it.
Okay. It was quite funny. We both came across it at almost the exact same time. It's a really, really good visual because the warmth piece, as you mentioned, really comes through in this. And really, it's all about, you can see sort of partway down, it's all about building a foundation of trust first. To the comment that just came up a moment ago, you know, without trust, relationships aren't the same. You know, without trust, we don't really have it. Relationships where people feel comfortable to speak up, to share, to come with their challenges. And so it's really, really important as leaders that we really take the time, as it's showing on here, that it's about connection first, because very much what it's showing in this illustration is that if we don't have that personal connection, well, all of the competence and the skills of that person, they become far less important in terms of the influence that person has. And Camille, as you're mentioning that sort of, you know, that lead and followers, we really need to have those strong trust-based relationships to build on this. And I wanted to share as well that there is there's a number of different ones, but there's the Trust Advisors Group have a trust equation that is all about looking at how can we actually start thinking about what contributes to somebody's trustworthiness. So what do we see in others? And it's made up of credibility, reliability, plus intimacy, over self-orientation. Now, lots of words. What does it actually mean? That's what I want to share a little bit, because this can really help us keep in mind what is it that we can be doing in order to help us build that trust that's going to create that warm environment, that connection within the group. So the first thing that contributes to somebody perceiving trustworthiness in others is about credibility. And this is all about how we demonstrate, for example, are we coming across as authentic? Are we authentic in our actions? Do we tell the truth? Do we, for example, admit when we've made mistakes, or if we don't know something? We're not trying to look the best in every situation, but we really come across as a credible, honest, open person. And that's what really we could be demonstrating, those sorts of traits, in order to come across as credible. In addition to that, well, we need to be reliable. If you think about people that you trust, you know there's somebody then that walks the talk. They're there for you. They have the ability to keep promises. There's somebody we can rely on. If we actually want to share something, we know they're going to keep that private as well. They're people who are reliable as well in terms of, you know, if they're setting up group calls or meeting each other, they're the people that turn up on time. If it's just a short get together in a call or something, people keep to time. So it's just over time, really demonstrating as well that you're somebody people can rely on. So credibility, reliability are contributing to trustworthiness. The third one is intimacy. And this is really connecting into what we can see on the screen now, because it's that emotional connection. Can people come to you and open up and share personal details? Can they share the highs and the lows of what they're going through and feel safe and secure with you? Do they feel connected? And that empathy really comes in here as well, because that just takes that connection beyond just listening to somebody talking, but you're really understanding what they're going through, what they're feeling, and really looking at connecting to their perspective. So this really, really has an impact on that trust. Now, the equation is divided by what we call self-orientation. And this is really about people's perceptions of whether you care. And we make conclusions about this, whether we feel that people pay attention to us. Are they doing things for the interest of the group, or is there some maybe ulterior motive or some selfish acts that are in there? So this all comes together, because if the self-orientation is big, as in they're focused more on themselves, well, that then means that we're going to impact and bring down that trustworthiness, because it's going to be kind of in conflict with what they've just done around credibility, reliability, and intimacy. So we want to make sure that we come across as somebody who is paying attention and genuinely caring, and this will have a really great impact on that trustworthiness and bringing it in. So empathy, I see, comes into and connects with those different elements of how we can establish trust, and two really, really important things, and we can see on that diagram just there. Connection is first and foremost.
Thank you. I really love it. I think it's really informative, and I think it really helps, putting those different concepts together and seeing how they support each other, like how they mutually reinforce each other, so we can create, quality relationship that is the, like the root and the basis for any kind of leadership, relationship, whatever that means. So thank you. I think it's very useful, and I think this is something that we'll use again. So this equation is very important, and I will now go back to the comments, as I see that we have many. Maybe a little bit going back to what we were just saying about why self-care is that important when you are a community leader, and maybe even more when you are like a domestic community leader. So we have Sinamar saying here, for my co-leaders, while helping others above self-worth, don't forget that we also have our own needs. So I love it that, Sinama, you're sharing to your peer directly. So thank you very much for this comment again. We should know our limits. Remember that whatever we don't have, we can't give. We have to remind ourselves that we are human beings and we're not Superman or even Superwoman. So yeah, this is completely okay not to be okay, for sure. Thank you for that. It's very powerful.
Yeah, very powerful, that comment.
We have Nida Reyes saying, yes, that's true. We need to set aside our personal life. We must not carry away what we've heard about their story. We need to learn how to set boundaries. Yeah. So again, when you belong to a community who is facing hardships, challenges, this is all the more important, I would say. We have Jeneline, who is also one of our most committed and experienced team leaders, saying, for me, who is leading two communities in my hands, Uplifters and Migrant Writers of Singapore, I am so much aware of the difference between these two. So I think she's talking about maybe coaching and mentoring. I found it both in the migrant community. Uplifters have taught me how to dream big and work hard on it. It focuses more on the financial and emotional aspect of my life. And we at Uplifters promote women empowerment. And by knowing the people who are in this community, what they need and why they are here, I'm able to focus on, and I can't read the end of the comment, but yeah, basically it's about knowing the different communities that you're leading.
Yeah, and it's really important if we're spread across different areas, because, as Jane Lynn mentioned, different people have different needs. And therefore, unfortunately, there's no one-size-fits-all approach to this. But if we come with all of these attributes that everybody's been posting, courageous, we're committed, we're curious, it just drives that natural desire to want to understand and know people. And if we know people, then we can meet their needs so much easier.
I was just thinking about one thing that someone said to me like a few weeks ago, saying, very often you're hearing like, don't do to others what you don't want them to do, or do to other what you'd like other people to do. But maybe actually it's more about like, do to others what you think they want you to do. So it's really, again, changing this perspective and asking ourselves what it is that they need, rather than what I would need if I were in their situation. So it's really knowing the persons and knowing the community.
Absolutely, and not having assumptions driving everything we do as well is getting that information, definitely.
Yeah. So again, like listening, the power of listening without interruption, which is also a skill that can be developed and takes time. So Regina is telling us, for me, trust is really important before someone can become a leader. So by strengthening a relationship in a team, it can lead to more ideas, collaboration, and by that, it improves this productivity of the community toward a common goal. So it's exactly what you were just saying. It's really about bringing people together and like leading them into one direction. Thank you, Ms. Charlotte. This is a big help to us as a beginner to have this guide that we can look up to have a good start to connect and help our community. Yeah, I'm happy it's being useful. I know team leaders are supporting each other a lot, sharing tips, and connection is really something that they're talking about. The need to, even before the courses start, connect with every student, maybe when they have time, doing that on a one-on-one basis. So then after it will make it much easier to bring people together, because you first created this connection, this one-on-one relationship.
Yes, it's true, because especially when you've got a group, everybody in that group needs to have that trust. So if you can establish it one-on-one, you can then help facilitate then that trust building within the group and within that community. So it definitely starts with that one-to-one and then builds out into that group.
Yeah, starting small, and then you can grow the community bigger. So Anne-Marie, thanking you, Charlotte. Trust is the foundation of a relationship. Again, really thank you for that equation. I love it. I'll use it again and again. And then, the differences in between coaching, mentoring, and leadership. It's absolutely perfect.
Oh, thank you again.
Everyone. We have one more here. Different people have different needs. Yeah, we need to know everyone's personality when we are leading, and show them how dedicated and committed we are on what we are doing. Yeah, commitment and this humility that will help you to go to others. Thank you for this fruitful discussion. Yeah, thank you everyone for sharing as well. I think it's really, to me, it was very important that we have, sharing from leadership trainer and coach, so having this expertise perspective, but also, you are the community leader, so it's very interesting to be able to go back and forth and see how what you're sharing with us, Charlotte, actually really speak to the community. To lead is to inspire, for sure.
Yeah, it's great to see, as you say, the inclusive leadership in action. How is it that, what are the traits that people are finding useful? What are the things that have been useful? What are things that we need to keep front and center? So appreciate everybody's comments that are coming in.
Okay, I'm a little bit mindful of the time, but I do want to ask you this question, which is which will help us wrapping up anyway. So can we say that everyone can become a leader? So that would be the first one, and the other one, just feel free to share if you have things that you want to share, but the audience as well. what could the journey to becoming a community look like? So my question is like, if you want to be that person, to who people will turn to when they're in need of support or inspiration, where would you start? And then I think it will be a good occasion to kind of wrap up.
Yeah. So first question, can anyone become a leader? Absolutely. If you have the desire and you want to do something, then absolutely. And I know I've seen it coming in the comments and we've been talking, but dream big. I always encourage people to set these goals. If you want something, it gives you the drive to go after it. And really then it's just a matter of thinking about kind of two sides in terms of that journey, because one's the skill set and the other one's sort of the attributes and what is it that you can be putting into practice as you go through. So I know you mentioned previously, Camille, about the setup with the mentorship and the coaching that team leaders and community leaders are providing. So it's, if we're in the groups and people want to go there, reaching out and asking those questions and hearing people's experiences and stories, I always think is the best place to start, because you can really then, like everybody's sharing in the comments today, we learn from people that are going through it. Yeah. So it's a really, really great, powerful step, and to have that available in the community, absolutely taking advantage of that is a great thing to do. And that will help lead to thinking about things that you can then start doing, as well as a lot of those attributes that we've seen coming up, some that I shared and others that are coming up on the group. It's always looking at what are other opportunities outside of a leadership capacity that I can be putting these into practice. So we've been talking about establishing trust, how do I build up credibility, demonstrating that I'm somebody that's reliable, also building those connections with people in communities, putting empathy into practice, questioning and listening. All of these are skills that we can really start putting into practice with friends, with family, with our peers as well. So it's a lot of focusing on ourselves and thinking, what is it that I want to develop? And what's that path going to look like? What advice can I get? And then beginning that journey and always, I would always say, and always seeking support all along. We don't need to go these things alone. Getting help from others it's much better, it's more fun, and it's going to help with that well-being as well. We're not going to feel the stress of doing it alone.
Yeah, well, thank you. Like, I was about to ask, like, if there was one, like, what would be the advice that you would give to community leaders so they can safeguard their mental well-being while supporting their peers? So I think this one is a very important one. Like, go to your community, realize, the chance that you have, how lucky you are to be surrounded with people who are sharing somehow the same situation as yours, but at the same time, people that you don't know yet and that you can learn a lot from, and go and listen to their stories. And that would be a very good start. And I agree with what you were saying, Charlotte. You don't need to start big. You can practice your listening skills with your friends, with your peer, with maybe the children that you care, that you look after at work. So really, take this community and your everyday life as an experimentation field, really. So with that, I'm going to have a quick look at the last comments that I can take in before we really conclude. So we have Nida saying, as my experience yesterday as a beginner, what I heard now is really true, and that is what I felt, and learn more things tonight that are useful to continue the things that I'm doing. So I'm very happy to read that it is encouraging you doing more of what you're already doing. It's great. Sinamar is saying, everyone can be a leader, but let's be realistic that not all can lead. Yeah, we're talking about skills, definitely. I think it's a good reminder. We can learn the skills and they can develop, and it's a long learning process. So let's be humble here as well. definitely. It does take time. Thank you. And we have another comment here. You pretty Belle. A community leader for me is also a good member, also who is open-minded, ready to listen to other suggestions and thoughts. Yeah, I mean, you're a member of the community, being the one who leads the community, definitely. So it goes to the humility again. Jenny, thank you so much for this wonderful talk that we listened tonight. It made me pat myself and congratulate for having those characteristics of a leader, and it made me silently thank her for being a big part of this leadership learning that I've gained. So I'm really happy you're patting yourself. I love it. Everyone can be a leader, but it takes a lot of power, effort, and knowledge to be a good, effective, and productive leader. Yeah. So same thing. I do agree. Everyone can become a leader, but it does take time and practice, and again, use the people around you so you can practice this support and listening skills.
Absolutely. And it's an important point that Jane Lynn mentioned, saying it can be so easy to forget to appreciate the work that we are doing when we're in those positions and the skills that we've learned over time and the effort we've put in. So it's always, sometimes taking that step back and appreciating what we're doing, and our peers as well, for the efforts that they're putting in is it's such a feel-good thing. Well done and thank you. These are such small phrases, but they carry a lot of weight.
I agree. Yeah, and so the last one that I'll be able to take, being a little bit time constrained, is again that reminder, and it's very interesting to see how widely it has been shared. You're a community member before being a community leader. So I think this is something that you all care about, like that idea of not leaving behind maybe like the basis of the community, the roots, where you're coming from. So and that is true for any kind of community, really. Thank you. So I think we're coming to the end for good now. Maybe just before we end the live, there is something that we usually do in the end, sharing a little bit about what made us happy today. This is just for you to know, Charlotte, but I think you do know, because you know the content of the course quite well. So we have these morning and evening rituals, and we like to develop this gratefulness, which is also a skill that can be built upon time. So I'll have you start first and share with us what are the 3 little joys that you want to share with us today.
Okay, so what would be the 3? So the first one would be, I had a nice text message from my mum come in this afternoon. We haven't spoken in a few days, so that always puts a smile on my face when I see a message from my mum back in the UK. Second one would be when my husband came back from work and he brought chocolate home with him. So I was very happy to have some chocolate after my dinner. And third one has absolutely been this call. It's been a real pleasure to be part of this community and to hear everyone's opinions. So this is definitely ending my day with a big smile on my face. So thank you to everybody who's been on this call, and to yourself, Camille, and everyone at Uplifters. It's a fantastic initiative.
Thank you, Charlotte, for sharing, and well, thank you again for the contribution that you already did and that you're doing tonight to the community. For myself, it'll be quick, and I'll start with your last one. Clearly, this call was awesome. I loved it. I loved the tips. I loved reading at all the comments, and also I love the feeling of being useful to the community, and I'm very happy that the topic seems to be an interesting one for the community. The other thing is that this morning with our team, so it was 3 of us this morning, we had this mental well-being kind of checking that we do every Monday morning. And this morning, the 3 of us had quite a bit to share about how we were feeling, and it felt extremely safe to be sharing how we were feeling. And I'm very grateful for the extremely healthy environment that I work in. And then the third one is going to my kids, because they are being very kind to me at bedtime, listening to what I was telling them. And it felt also peaceful. So it was a relaxing day, and it was very enjoyable. So this is time to say goodbye. Good night for those of you who live the same part of the world as us in Asia. And we'll have more lives, and we'll go back to the comments. So feel free to keep sharing if you want. The dialogue is now open, so it will stay on our social media. So feel free to drop your comments if you want to say more. And thank you again, Charlotte, and have a good end of the day or night to everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.